So you want to talk to a vet, huh? Well, nowadays everybody has a dog or a cat or something, and we all need vets. Well, Dr. Robert Ridgway has been doing our shows. He writes a column every month, and we interviewed him when he first came out with his first book, then the second book, and we've really had a kind of a veterinarian affair going because he's so smart and because he always tells everybody the real straight talk about what's happening with our pets. So I welcome you to our show, Dr. Ridgway.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And so you said you just retired, which is very interesting. I can't imagine why a vet would retire when they have all those cute doggies and cats to take care of.
Well, I've done it for 43 years, and
okay.
And I thought it was time to let somebody else do it.
Okay. And do you have any pets of your own at home?
Yeah, we have a male cat. He's about 13 years old, and he's doing very well.
Well, let me tell you something. I was talking to someone else the other day. Are there really dog whisperers or vets that understand the mental part, that when a dog or cat speaks to them in a sense with sign language or something? Is that really true?
I don't know how you would prove that it is true. I've had a technician that worked for me. I called her a dog whisperer. She could handle dogs that were rather mean, better than anybody else in the facility. And so I'll say this. I know that there are people who have an ability to handle dogs better. Now, she also, not only did she work as a veterinary technician, but she also had a kind of sideline business where she sold dogs. You know, she raised them, and she would often adopt dogs from the shelter and prepare them for adoption, and she'd make sure that the people who were receiving it was going to be a good homeowner for that particular pet. So I don't know about the necessary of, but there's some people that can have an ability. I don't know if you heard of the book, the Horse Whisperer.
Yes.
I don't know. It's an ability that few people have, but I have recognized that. But I doubt that there has anything to do with any mental telepathy. If it is, I'd like to be able to learn how to read minds.
Right. That would be good. But there is a let's see, I think he's a doctor, and he has a cat that goes around. If they go to a place, hospitals, the cat always goes to the people who are dying from cancer. Have you heard of that story, that cat?
Well, I have. I think there's a whole book written about that.
Right, there was.
And I'm trying to think of the name of it right now, and I cannot.
Right, but, I reviewed it. Now I can't remember it either, but I do remember that.
Well, you know, that's called a seance to recall that which has departed. Mainly that has to do with the death. But anyway, I have heard of that. I don't know about it. I have not experienced anything with that. But I'm sure that there's something to that. I think, if I recall, that when that cat went around to the people, it meant that they were going to die within the next few days. I can't remember the premise of that.
Right. They just knew it, and they would go up and sit on that person, and they just somehow knew that there was the end was coming, or that they were very sick. And then there was something else, that someone said that there was a dog that could tell if people had cancer. They're using this dog, as a matter of fact, or they're training dogs to be able to detect cancer. Now, I mean, I guess everything is possible nowadays.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do know about the training of military working dogs, because I was the chief of the military dog veterinary service at Lackland Air Force Base, and I do know that they're very capable of finding tripwires and smelling bombs and powder, gunpowder, and things that are buried under the ground. And I know of one story. This fellow was a Green Beret, and he was in a mountain yard area, and this fellow wanted to cross this river, and the dog sat down. Now, that is the sign that he's detected something. but he thought that the dog didn't want to go into the water. He tried and tried and tried to get that dog to go in the water. So finally he stepped off of the water and it exploded. It killed him and the dog. So dogs have a unique ability. I don't know about the ability to detect cancer, but I do know that they have ability to smell scent and follow people, find people, tracker dogs, dogs that can find people. And I know of a young lady who works with the fire department and sheriff department, and her dogs are trained to find people in buildings that have been collapsed, and with a point of trying to get them out before they die. So dogs can be trained to do lots and lots of things, and so it'd be kind of a stretch of my imagination to believe that somehow they can detect cancer, but anything I suppose is possible.
Well, maybe cancer has an odor. I mean, I don't know this, and of course we're not talking to an oncologist, but it has an odor, and when they give that odor to the dog enough times, maybe just as you were saying, the dog sniffs for a certain odor like they sniff for drugs. Who knows?
Well, that would be a conjecture on your part and my part.
Right. I know it.
I don't know that. So
okay, we won't conject.
I don't want to say something that's not true, and somebody says, "Well, I heard so and so."
Right, that's right. They would say it. Well, he said it.
Yeah.
Well, your article that we did last issue in the February issue, I thought we could talk a little bit about that. And we talked about you talked about dogs, cats, and the Ebola virus, and you assured people that dogs and cats really probably don't have the Ebola disease. Is that true?
And that was based on the fact that dogs and cats have been around people that have the disease, and they didn't catch it. And so they feel pretty strongly that what I said about that's true, based on the information and the data that is available currently. I didn't say that was definitely so, because strange things happen, but by and large, I think that's a true statement.
Well, I don't think we have any outbreak here in the United States now. Do we? I didn't think so.
No, we haven't had any outbreaks. We've had some people that are brought back that have the disease, but no outbreaks. And the good thing is they were able to treat them, and they survived. The news media has really decreased their talk about Ebola, so I think a couple of things that may be happening. I think they have a vaccine, one. Two, maybe they've gotten better treatments. I think they were also talking about bringing all a big portion of the U.S. forces that were sent there to help with this problem in those countries. And so they're starting to bring those people home. So it indicates that there's by far fewer incidents of Ebola in those countries. And I guess from our point of view, we want them to keep it there and don't bring it here. And I would think that the measles outbreak that we have in the United States, it shows the significance of people being conscious of disease control. And I think it just kind of blows my mind, and I can't understand is why people wouldn't get their children immunized to protect it. The disease is much worse than any little poke of a needle could possibly be. And that's the same thing. Same syndrome is available with dogs. Some people, if you happen to poke a needle in a dog, it yelps, and they think that you destroyed the world. And
right.
It's a minor thing compared to a disease. It's nothing. It is absolutely nothing. And I can't think of anything that would be better than to protect not only your pets, but your family members. It just seems very, very foreign to me, but, the way I came up.
I agree with you. My guest is Dr. Robert Ridgway. He is a veterinarian who, you live in Orlando, right outside, don't you?
I live in Orlando, yes, ma'am.
Right, in Orlando. And, of course, you can read his column in our magazine called Dogs, Cats. Well, it was the February issue, Dogs, Cats, and Ebola Virus, but he also wrote a wonderful, wonderful book called Truth About Dog and Cat Treatments and Anomalies. And I've used that book a lot. It's just simple, very down-to-earth responses to questions that people have about their cats and dogs. And so I suggest if you don't want to spend the money and go to a vet, you can start off by reading Dr. Ridgway's book. Dr. Ridgway, go ahead.
Two things I'd say about that. Number one, going to the veterinarian is probably the best thing you can do. The second best thing is to read the book.
Okay.
But, the thing when writing the book is that I tried hard. It's so easy. You get so used to using terms that you don't realize you're writing them down. And I have my daughter read it, and she says, I don't understand what you're saying here. So I have to, okay, now I got to make it so everybody can understand what I'm saying. And I can give you an example. If I say to you, I would like for you to look at the medial canthus, did I communicate with you? And you'll probably say, no, I don't know what the medial canthus is.
Right.
But if I say, look at the corner of the eye, the right eye, next to the nose, you know exactly where to look, right or wrong.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so that's what I try to do in this book. And I found that was probably the most challenging thing for me, was to talk in lay terms, because it's so easy to fall into the trap and talk my professional talk.
No, of course, that's true in most things. But I was going to ask you that my dog now has dry eyes, and I'm having to use drops every day, and she loves it. I put a warm compress on it first. I do that twice a day. I guess I'll have to do this for the rest of her life, which is okay for me. But dry eye is interesting.
Well, that's very common. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't do what you're doing. They don't treat it. And I have a product that I like the best. It's called Gentle Gel. And there are other products that are liquid gels, too. And so I guess besides Gentle Gel, you could try one of these others. But, all it takes a drop or two into the eye to keep it moist. And obviously, the more times you put it in the eye during the day, the better off you are.
So you can't put it in too much, is what you're saying?
Yes, that's right. It isn't going to hurt anything that's in there. A moist eye. When you look in the mirror and you look at your eyes, they kind of shine. And when you look at your pet's eyes, they should do the same thing. And I have seen so many come in, they got this gunk in their eye, it's this exudate and stuff, and the cornea is cloudy, and eventually, if they don't treat it, pigment will get into the cornea, and the dog will be blind because of dry eyes. And this is a very, very common problem in pets. And you can go to the grocery store, actually, and buy these things over the counter, so it's readily available. My favorite, though, is Gentle Gel.
Yeah, that's what they prescribe. That's what I use for her. But also, they have one more thing I use. It's formulated in Texas. I use that once a day. I forget, it starts with a T, but anyway, I use that. It's expensive, and we use that, and then we use the gel.
Well, I don't know what the expensive thing is.
I don't know either. I'll have to, next time I talk to you, I have to tell you the name, but it's something that I guess they actually sent me to a dog ophthalmologist to go over her eyes. And that's something that he wanted her to use, and also.
That's good. It's very important, because if you don't do that, the dog will eventually be blind. I guarantee that.
Well, I do it, and it's interesting because she gets a treat after we do it. So she comes up on my lap. She sits there while I put this nice warm cloth over her eyes. I guess that's I don't really know what that's for, but that's what they told me to do. What is that doing?
Oh, well, when you put a cloth or something like that, it's actually kind of cooling. Years ago, when I was younger, my father built a building, and he did a lot of arc welding. And I was in the building, the walls were painted white, and there was a reflection on it, and it actually burned my eyes. And at the time that happened, they were replacing heating lines in the area where we lived, and that was all steam heated, and so they were replacing all these steam pipes, and they did a lot of welding. So my dad asked them what they did if they happened to get their eyes burned. And you know what they said? They said that they take a potato and cut it and lay it on top of the eye. So my dad did that, and every time it did, the coolness of that potato and the moisture in the potato made my eyes feel better. So I'm assuming that when you put that towel on the eyes of your pet, it does something similar to what that potato did when I burned my eyes.
Well, I'm wondering if I should be putting a potato on her eyes instead of the cloth.
Well, I don't know. It probably does the same thing. I'm guessing because the towel or whatever you put over the eyes are moist, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I use hot water, warm water, and she sits very quietly. She really likes it. I mean, she just sits there in my lap, and I count to 100.
Yeah, I'm just supposing that it's the moisture that makes the eyes feel better. And at least that was when they put the potatoes on my eyes when they were burned. And he had to do that for about 4 or 5 days, and then I finally got over the burn. But it was very effective, and it worked.
All these simple things to do for people. It's sometimes right.
Would be in there, would you?
Right, a potato, huh?
It worked. It worked very well.
Excuse me. Let me just get this little water here. I'm also noticing that we live in a condo where they allow dogs, and we have some people have 2 dogs to their apartment, and it's being overrun by dogs.
Maybe 4 or 5 dogs, you know. It's just, and then we have another problem. We have people that hoard animals, and that's a sad, sad story. I think that they have their heart in the right place, but their financial ability is not where their heart is. And unfortunately, those dogs and cats don't get fed. They're not cared for. The cages that they're in, they get tired of cleaning them. They become filthy. And it's a real, real problem. It's not a pleasant thing when you run into a hoarder. Most of the time, I don't know of any that had we found that were really hoarders that really took decent care of all the pets because they get so many, they can't afford to do so.
I'm glad you brought that up because actually, the thing that I'm appreciating is that when people want to adopt a pet, which is a wonderful thing, nowadays they say to the person, we want you just to foster it for a weekend or a week and then see how you feel. And then you can adopt it. But they also have a huge application. I mean, it isn't casual. They really want to know all about you and how you feel about lots of things before they let their pets go to you.
Yeah, that's true. And the reason is that a lot of times they adopt a pet, they don't take care of it. I've seen that more than once. And they think they want a pet, and when they actually have one, they find out that they don't want to take the time to take care of it. And so that's a good idea, I believe. Let's have a little trial first before we jump into the pool.
Right. Right. It's like have a baby and then you decide that's not what you want, you give it back, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, where I work, we did that, but it was normally we do that with animals that were sick, and people would take them and treat them until they got well, and then bring them back, and then they'd be adopted.
Ah.
So that was our foster program, and that was very effective. But unfortunately, some people really didn't understand what the foster program was, and they'd take it and they'd have it home one day, and they didn't want to do the treatment. They'd bring it right back. So I think that the program that you described is a good thing, and I think it will be beneficial for both the pets and the owners.
I think that people care for their pets, though, much more today than they ever did. 30, 40 years ago, people let their dogs out. They let just their cats out. And now, I just think it's a different world. People treat them more like children. I have been impressed with that.
Well, I can say this. The way that pets are, 40 years ago, people didn't let pets in their house. Now they let them in the house. Not only they let them in the house, they put clothes on them. And I mean, that's true. And 40 years ago, nobody, if you had done that, you would have thought you was crazy.
Right.
And now you can go to a pet store and they have all these clothes for pets, just like you walk into a store for ladies.
Yep.
Just as much choice.
It's
kind of I know it's a marketing thing on their part. It's another item for them to sell, but it's true. And I think what I've noticed, this is a clinical investigation, not a scientific study, that female dogs are more apt to be clothed than male dogs.
Right. I have my nails done at a salon where the owner has a dog, and it always has on a beautiful dress. The dog is so adorable, but there's no way I would do that to my dog.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But it is the personality of the individuals, and it is what it is. It's partly marketing tool on behalf of those who sell those things, and the other part of it is, oh, that looks so nice, it's so sweet, it's blah, blah, blah. So it is what it is.
Right.
As long as it didn't hurt an animal, I think it's, so what?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, the dogs seem to like all the compliments it gets.
Yeah. Yeah, they like, I can assure you, our cat loves attention, so anytime that you're going to be able to spend some time playing with and petting it, they love it, and that's what they come for, that affection that you give them.
Yeah, that's true. It's well, I just think that the dog that we adopted about 6 months ago, Snowy, it's a little, I think I told you, it's a Maltese. It's 8.5 years old, and it absolutely, maybe it's 9 now since I've had it 6 months, but it's just the light of my life. I mean, a lot of times I take it to the radio show early in the morning. We take it for walks, which is very important because we're getting the walk the same as the dog is, which is perfect. And I wouldn't know what to do without this dog. It's like my little baby.
Another thing about taking the dog for a walk and all that kind of thing, sometimes it's helpful for people to alleviate stress by just doing those kinds of things. Getting out and taking, and the other thing about taking a dog out, I'm against letting the dog out the door and forgetting about it and then open the door and letting it back in. We have too many animals that are hit by cars when that happens. I know that you wouldn't let some young child run around out in the street, but you'll let your dog run out in the street, which doesn't make any sense. And then they get hit by a car, and then they got a $2,000, $3,000 veterinary bill, and they blame the veterinarian for being so expensive, and it's all their fault for letting the dog out in the first place without supervision. And I think as long as an animal is out of doors, that it should be on a leash and be supervised by the owner. I walk a lot, and I see dogs on roads or cars are traveling 50, 60 miles an hour. No owners. They got a collar, and they're just running loose. You can't expect them not to get hurt.
Yeah, I don't know what they expect. Why would they do that?
When you find out that question, you let us know. If you get an answer to that question, you just let us know. I don't know.
Right. But I will say that years ago, I think it was prevalent. I think we saw that. I just don't think we see that now.
Oh, we do. In my neighborhood,
you still do, huh?
You bet. I see it. I see, and they leave they take dogs into other people's yards and let them go to the bathroom there, and they don't clean up after it. I think it's people that don't care. I don't know what else you would say. I just don't know. I don't have an answer for it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it can be a real problem.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I couldn't imagine letting Snowy, besides getting taken or stolen or hurt. You're right. They just don't understand cars. And I don't. Well, in my neighborhood, everyone walks their dog. I don't think they're allowed not to. There's a lot of laws now. There are leash laws.
Well, there are speeding laws too. Does everybody always obey that? No. Just because there's a law doesn't mean it's going to be obeyed.
Right. So I haven't.
can tell you that right now.
I know. That's a good point. I have another question. When you're driving, you see some people let their dogs' heads out the window looking. Dogs seem to be so happy, but I would think that if there's an accident, the dog's head would get cut off.
Well, I don't know about the head getting cut off, but I've patched up a lot of them that fell out of the window.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
That's not good. I think that's a bad thing, personally.
Yep.
I've seen that, too. I've seen some pretty small ones that are pretty much hanging out of the car, and I think, goodness gracious, about ready to fall out.
Right.
And that's going to be real trauma if that happens. It's not something that happens every day, but it happens enough that I've seen several of them, and I don't recommend that at all. I think that's a dangerous thing to allow your dog to do that. And, if you love your dog, I kind of have I understand that they think that that's really neat and that the dog likes it. But let me tell you something. If that dog falls out, you think he's going to like it?
No, you're
Certainly
right.
not. It's going to be, if it doesn't die, it's going to be badly, badly, badly bruised.
Well, with that, we are going to thank you very much for being on our show. We really always like to hear from you. You give us good information. We have fun. And that's Dr. Robert Ridgway. And we wish you a great retirement.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
it's always a pleasure to talk with you. And I hope some of the listeners will be able to take some of it and do something with it.
I'm sure they will, and I hope that they'll go get your book. It's really worth it. It's called, it's a great book, and the book is called Truth About Dog and Cat Treatments and Anomalies. It's worth getting. Thanks, Dr. Ridgway.